for the government and the contractors and all the rest. Well, for example, the Lockheed stealth fighter program, $10 billion was spent over a 10-year period in total secrecy. Nobody knew about it. $10 billion is a lot of money, a lot of people.
$10 billion.
$10 billion, yeah. And, yeah, we got stealth fighters. Now, another example, the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office. The other guys who run the big, powerful spy satellites, some of which can cost $500 million for one piece of equipment up there. Anyway, they admitted, I guess it was 3 years ago now, that they had canceled a program they'd had with Boeing on developing a new satellite architecture, how to put the pieces together and so forth. They had only spent $14 billion and didn't get what they wanted.
Where does this money come from? And how did you end up finding that out for sure? And how does that information get to us?
It came out in an article. I guess when you cancel contracts, you have to say something, and, because that's a lot of people working at Boeing and other places. And so everyone, there's an organization of scientists for getting rid of secrecy. That's not the name of it, but something like that. And they keep track of a lot of this stuff. And there are many. Well, let me give you another example, one I like, the Corona spy satellite, just like the cigar or the old Toyota or whatever. It was the first spy satellite that the United States had. And the work was done in secret. And after 12 failures, all covered up, just a scientific satellite, sorry, we lost it. The first one got more data on Russian military facilities than all the U-2 flights that had preceded it. The first one, and there were many more that were successful. The first one was successful in 1960. The first public discussion of the Corona spy satellites was 1995, by which time, as you might imagine, the technology had greatly advanced, but secrets can be kept, and they're constantly being kept.
I think what happens is that when people perceive the government, they're perceiving the only government we are aware of dealing with. That's the perception, that things leak if people have affairs. So obviously things would leak. It's like comparing apples to oranges, really.
Well, yeah, a good example of that is Dr. Seth Shostak of the SETI Institute was saying there can't be a cover-up. He said this in public. Look, this is the same government that fouled up with FEMA on the Katrina business, same government that runs the post office. These guys can't keep secrets. Now, if he had mentioned NRO, NSA, OSI, ONI, CIA, just that whole alphabet soup of agencies, then I could understand it. But what's the connection between, FEMA and any of these groups? If anything's classified there, it's only their incompetence, maybe, but it's not the same thing. And people are dreaming if they think the agencies can't keep secrets. And that has a downside. We don't know what's going on that maybe we should know about what other countries are doing, for example. Or, as we have heard with this Egyptian stuff right now, we don't know what our government has done in our names, admitted torture, and other bad things that I think most Americans would not approve of. But we don't know about it. So the secrecy is a way of life, and it's not only the United States. And one of the strange responses to UFOs, again from the SETI community, is that there is no national security aspect to this. If we get a message from an alien civilization, we're going to tell everybody right away.
Well, that assumes that their instruments are refined enough and subtle enough and advanced enough to pick up this stuff. It's absurd.
Actually, you'd have to say that the aliens are being very primitive in the technology they use. We've only had radio for roughly 110 years, give or take a few. And then Marconi was around 110 years ago, long-distance transmission across the ocean. But there are stars out there in our local neighborhood that are over 1 billion years older than the sun.
Are you talking about Zeta 1 or Zeta 2 Reticuli?
Well, those two are indeed, some people say 3 billion, but I'm a very conservative guy, only 1 billion years older than the Earth. So to presume they're stuck at our level of technology is absurd. I mean, I don't use a slide rule anymore, and I did 50 years ago. Everywhere you look, I'm staring at a computer here, not very advanced. What would that have been worth 40 years ago?
Exactly.
And you look at the internet, and and in my other book, the other one that you mentioned, Science is Wrong, we talk about the resistance to new technology. But technology changes. That leaves out the question, why would an advanced civilization send us messages when they've sent us visitors, if you will, people, spies, call them what you want. They know from firsthand experience what our society is like. A primitive society whose major activity is tribal warfare. And I get people lifting an eyebrow at that, but two numbers sort of set the pace. We Earthlings this year, next 12 months, will spend approximately $1 trillion on things military. Every day of the year, 30,000 children will die needlessly of preventable disease and starvation. Now, how does that look to somebody else? We just had World War II. 50 million Earthlings were killed by other Earthlings. 1,700 cities were destroyed. Now, if you want one good reason, and in my book there's a whole chapter on why come here, one reason to come here is to make sure we don't go out there with our brand of friendship. It's a sorry record. And I must take pride in the fact that I'm the original civilian investigator of the Roswell Incident, but we sometimes forget. In 1947, there was only one place in the world, in July, where you could study the clear indications that soon Earthlings would be moving out, taking their brand of friendship, soon meaning 100 years, which is nothing on a cosmic timescale. Powerful V-2 rockets, we grabbed a whole bunch from the Germans, and we're firing them on White Sands Missile Range. Nuclear weapons, first one was tested on White Sands Missile Range, 1945, Trinity Site. And we had our most powerful radar there to track the rockets, which sometimes went south instead of north. Very embarrassing. The Mexicans didn't like that. And that's the beginning of the electronics revolution. Isn't it amazing that Roswell is in southeastern New Mexico? Now, admittedly, I had an English astronomer very haughtily say, well, they could have gone to the Soviet Union. Sorry, they didn't test their first A-bomb until 1949. So what I'm saying is there are many different aspects of the problem of UFOs. But one of them has to be, how do we look to others? And if you were an alien, would you want us out there?
No.
I mean, quarantine these guys, We're lucky they don't wipe us out and start again. Of course, this may have been the devil's island of this corner of the galaxy. They dumped all the bad boys and girls here, and that's why we're so nasty to each other. And it's their fault for leaving those guys here. Hey, Australia takes great pride, and a lot of the first settlers were convicts.
How come it is, as a nuclear physicist who's worked on such highly advanced things, that you have the courage to come forward and to have spent the last 50 years in this deep-level investigation of something where there's an obvious agenda to push the knowledge, the witnesses, anything that has happened away? How did you muster the courage in the beginning to proceed?
Well, I think it dates back to Rose Gutkin, my fifth-grade teacher, who told the class that the sun stands still and the planets in the solar system move around the sun. And I piped up that, no, Miss Gutkin, I just read in the encyclopedia. We bought them for 29 cents a volume at the supermarket, you understand, that the whole solar system is moving around the center of the galaxy at 12 miles a second, which seemed awful fast to me. And she gave me a hard time. No, that's not true. That's not what it says here. And I wasn't accustomed to being given a hard time. I was a straight-A student. And so the next day, I brought in the encyclopedia. And she very reluctantly admitted, well, maybe that was right. But I learned a very important lesson from that. If you're going to take on authority figures, have facts in hand before putting mouth in gear. I was a high school debater. And there you learn the same thing. You can't fool around. You can't make up stories. You can't, lie your way through stuff. But once you've got your facts, put them out there. And I found when I became a speaker